Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We recorded with Paul West Sales earlier today. He's the CEO at Western Copper and Gold. We talk about the recent announcement with regards to Rio taking an 8% stake in the company for $25.6 million. Terms and conditions apply. It'll be conditional on a process which Rio are going through themselves. And also the company has put a few conditions on Rio, and we talk about those. If you want to get our opinions on that, you can find them at cruxinvestor.com, where you can also find commentary from experts from around the world on a variety of companies and commodities. We've got training videos on there, and we've got summaries of all the interviews that we've done just to save you some time, because we know you're busy people. But most excitingly of all, there's a wonderful, thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice, friendly and safe environment, free from all that judgment, trolling and abuse you see elsewhere. If that sounds appealing to you, and I hope it does, go and join them. cruxinvestor.com, and we'd love your feedback too. So give us a like, leave your thoughts below, and if you want to see precisely what we talked about today with Paul, take a look in the description below. Paul, how are you, sir?
Very, very good. Great to see you again.
I bet. I haven't seen you since the beginning of February. It was a great conversation then, and you went on a bit of a run. You've been busy?
Yeah, it's been usually companies like us do most of our work in the summer, particularly when you have a project up in the Yukon. But it's been a very busy, end of winter and beginning of spring for us, for sure.
I heard. I really enjoyed the last conversation, by the way, obviously with the addition to the board and the slightly more aggressive stance you're taking. Yeah. Really enjoyed talking about that. We'll put a link to the previous interview and interviews below in the description so people can reference business plan strategies. Because this has been a long time in the offing. I'm calling you about the Rio press release. I'm intrigued by the terms, and we're going to talk about it in a second. But before we do, can you kick off, give us a 1-minute overview of the business for people new to the story, and I'll pick it up from there.
Sure. Western Copper and Gold, very, very simple company. Single asset, the Casino Copper Gold project located up in the Yukon. Large copper gold project, 21 million ounces of gold, 11 billion pounds of copper. We've been developing it for about 12 years now. We've done the engineering. We've got some permitting under our belt. Where are we right now? We just signed a deal with Rio Tinto, which we're going to talk about. We have a PEA coming out in weeks at this point in time. It's due out by the end of Q2, so that's the end of June. The goal is to get this thing, move this thing forward as quickly and as aggressively as possible. So getting back into permitting likely next year.
Perfect. Obviously, copper's been on a bit of a tear as well, which has helped. Gold has come off and then seems to be bouncing back again. So timing is everything in this game. But so are the picking the right strategic partners. Rio doesn't get better than that, does it?
I don't think so, and I'll be honest, they've been an absolutely great group to deal with. They've been very, very good. Very good.
Well, okay. So I do want to talk about it, but I also need to make the point that the number of companies that say to me, oh, Rio is in here, Sprott is in here, BHP is in here, we've got it made, the rest is plain sailing. And then I would say maybe 1 in 10 actually does something about it. It's not a guarantee. You've still got a lot of steps to get over. So can we talk about the terms under which Rio has come in as a strategic partner with you? So maybe talk about the quantum first of all, and then maybe we could get into what you need to do and what they need to do.
Yeah, sure. One of the things that we did, I guess, let me take a small step back. A lot of these sort of strategic investments are at the exploration stage for companies that are drilling holes and just beginning to define their resource. We have a well-defined resource. We have a feasibility study that we're updating right now. So this is a different sort of investment from that perspective. And then the other thing that I'd point out, and this is very important, is that the terms that we have with Rio, all of them are fixed. So in terms of the terms that we have to work together to do the technical work, 18 months. That's all we have to work this through. There's with one-time extension for an additional 12 months, but after that work is done. So it's a very fixed term in terms of working together.
Okay, so let's talk about it. So what do they think they're walking into? What's the opportunity that they're seeing, and what are they going to work out in the next 18 months? It's not a long time, as you say, but they've got to get some answers. What answers are they looking for?
Right. So that, I mean, when I talk to Rio about this, and when we talk about this collaboratively, we talk about this as being essentially a second level of due diligence on the project. There's the first level of due diligence that they can do under a CA, but then there's the level of due diligence that they can do open in this strategic investment environment that we have right now. What does that look like? It's going and talking to the First Nations. It's going and talking to the regulator. It's drilling some holes to check on geology. It's a little bit of exploration. It's met work. It's tailings. All these sort of things. They can do it out in the open. They can absolutely make sure that they understand this project before they make, hopefully a larger investment moving forward.
So they're just checking your work, really. They're checking the workings out. You're making sure you're being straight with them, that you haven't been cute with any of the numbers, that the people who've done your studies are doing it up to their standards. And I can see why. When I see some of the reporting in the marketplace, there's a big variance between standards usually. So that's fine. They won't find anything, will they?
No, and I mean, I think it's a bit more than just, you can check the numbers on a CA, you can send things for additional assays and things like that. I mean, I make this more akin to their test drive in the project. And I want to emphasize the importance, and I think that this is important for all companies looking to build a large mine. How do the First Nations feel about Rio being associated with the project? How do the communities feel about Rio being associated with the project? All of those sort of things. This is an opportunity for Rio to assess that, to see, what those reactions are like, to meet those groups without making a major investment and owning the car. And so I think that's an important part of this investment and an important reason why they have this 18-month period.
But those are very soft things. And I do understand the importance of them in this ESG environment, that, people are starting to understand better. But there's some hard components there. They are doing some exploration drilling. They are testing your met work. They are looking at the numbers too. So there is a validation component to this.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with that. Absolutely. And tailings has been a big part of what we've agreed to work on as well.
Right. Okay. Should we talk about some of the other components, like not necessarily out in the field, but also at board level, because there's a few conditions that you've put on them.
Yes. No. Absolutely. And so first of all, it's what they can do with their shares. So for 12 months, they can't sell their shares. They can't acquire any additional shares. That's important. The second thing is, and this is sort of a right, they wanted it, we wanted it, which was a placement of their shares. So let's say things don't work. They don't just go out and blow out their shares. We have a chance to find somebody to take those shares from them and to place them as well. And they have to vote, for 12 months. They have to vote along with the board for certain items in terms of AGMs and things like that as well.
Okay, can we talk about the thing that you said was important, please? Which is you're not letting them buy additional shares unless it's under certain conditions. So one, why put that in place? And two, what are the certain conditions?
I mean, what you're trying to avoid here is essentially a creeping takeover. So they can't be, they've got 8% now. We don't want them to go out and slowly acquire without us knowing additional percentage. And then we wake up one day and they've got 19.9% and essentially controlling interest in the company. So that's what we want to avoid. And the other thing that I'll point out, I've had a few people ask me about why 8%? That's sort of a weird percent. Why not 9.9? Why not 19.9? We specifically wanted them in at around that 8% level because we hope that this ends up being, ending very, very positively, but we also want to make sure that the door is wide open for other people to come in and test drive the project as well. And with 8%, that's a low enough percentage that it still leaves the door open for, other potential, senior partners or strategics to come in and take a look at the project.
Okay, competitive tension, always nice to have, great for shareholders, brilliant. But how does a company like Rio move forward? How do they benefit from walking into 8%? Is not going to keep them interested for too long. So in 18 months' time, once the test drive is over and they don't take the 12-month extension, what next? Are they just after offtake from you? It can't be that, can it?
Yeah. No, I mean, what we've talked about is, I mean, we've talked about this deal, obviously, and we've also talked about what the next deal is. And the next deal, it's around them either buying the whole project, i.e. the company, or a majority of the other way we've looked at this is, they could make an investment at the project level that would carry all of our capital requirements, and then they would have the rest of it. So those are the two sort of second transactions that we've been talking about. If our board was forced to make a decision right now, my guess is that they would just take a full buyout. I mean, certainly Dale. And if you look at Dale, our chairman's history, I mean, he had Western Silver. He sold that thing for $1.6 billion. If you were a shareholder of Western Silver, you actually now have a share of Western Copper, and he's just going to try to do that again.
Okay, but what do you do between now and 18 months' time, which moves the shares in the interim period? I mean, is there more information that's going to come out in the market in terms of their exploration drilling? Will they be making announcements into the market? Are you doing any spend? Are you going to be putting information out there which is going to move things in the next 18 months? Where's the value come from between now and them making a decision?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot, right? So first of all, the PEA. PEA is out here in weeks. I mean, it's essentially done. We're dotting I's and crossing T's. That's going to come out, absolutely define the value of this project in this market. I mean, and we'll see where we end up, but, we're talking net present value in billions, and that's going to establish that value. And then there's all this work we're going to be doing with Rio. So as you were bringing up, there's going to be MET results coming out. There's going to be a little bit of additional exploration, new engineering initiatives. But that work with Rio, our engineering work, but parallel to all that, we drive the project forward because, of course, you can't rely on the fact that, Rio may take us out or we'll enter into some other transaction with them in the future. We need to drive the project forward.
Okay, but that's a really good discussion we should have, which is there's some old feasibility work which has been done. People understand the scale of the opportunity here. I understand, obviously, the copper and gold market is much more positive since that study was done, and the PEA is an important step in understanding the economics as they stand today. That's all good stuff. But do you feel that the pop in the valuation since the Rio announcement means that people are they already understand the numbers, the scale of the opportunity? Do you feel you're going to kind of need to do more work to kind of backfill where you're at today, which is whatever you are, 330 million? Do you think that's a fair representation of where the project is today?
No, I mean, and I think that the PEA will be an important, I mean, people sort of remember the feasibility study, but let's be honest, it was pretty dated. I mean, 2013, I mean, that's 8 years old now, right? So what does it actually look like right now? So that's what we're doing. That's what we'll release here in a few weeks. And so then you have, okay, think about that situation. Okay, Paul, you've got this project with multi-billion-dollar net present value. Okay, the capital cost is high, but you've got Rio with you. You can see a path to the valuation with putting that together. And that's going to be my job, is making sure I go talk to investors to make sure they understand that path to valuation. But it's much higher than where we're sitting right now. And that's really the investment thesis here is if you look at any of our peers and you look at their valuation compared to, with big projects that have the strategic partner, we've got a long ways to go.
But it's really important. You said, we've got Rio there. You haven't got Rio. You've got the possibility of having Rio because they're now an 8% shareholder. They've got some work to do. So the work that they're doing in the next 18 months is really important for the market to understand, because the CapEx is potentially huge. And you'd be back to square one if Rio walk away. It's a big number to try and get after. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that the work that you are doing and the work that Rio is doing, kind of need to map and coordinate and work in tandem for the market to understand how the capex gets funded. So how have you two agreed to coordinate the message and that narrative in the market?
Yeah, I think it's clear that it's all the work we're doing. So if you look at the terms, they actually have a right to second people into our organization. And we have a technical, committee that oversees all the work. So it's all work we're doing together. It's not Rio's work and our work. It's all our work. Rio has input into it. We have this technical committee. It's already kicked off. We've already had initial discussions on that. It's all work, and even the scope of work we've agreed to as well. So it's all work that benefits the project and moves the project forward.
How do they validate your work? You said at the beginning they're also going to, as well as obviously talk to First Nations and local communities, but they're going to have to validate the numbers you provided. If they're just walking up to you and going, "Are your numbers correct?" and you're nodding in and going, "Yeah, they are," that's not validation. So there's a little bit of work that they're going to have to do outside of that arrangement, surely.
They're going to do some. I'm assuming they're going to do some work outside of that arrangement. But let's say, one of the things we're looking at to get really technical here for a couple of seconds is say a boundary between one geological domain and another geological domain. Well, we've agreed to drill a hole. They've agreed to second someone to watch us drill a hole. All of that to happen. They come back out. They say, "Okay, yeah, we're comfortable with where that one domain ends and another domain starts." Like that's the sort of check work that's being done.
Okay. And what's this 12-month extension or potential extension? Under what conditions would that happen?
So they have a one-time right to extend. It makes sense. It's, as you said at the onset, 18 months isn't that a large amount of time. We might get to that point and say, well, there's more work that needs to be done. And it can be extended that one time for 12 months, but that's it. After that, then it's you got to take the deeper dive or walk.
Right. So you've got a bunch of cash you raised just shortly before we last spoke at the beginning of February. They will set themselves a budget for their diligence process too, one suspects, during this 18 months period. I know you're working together, but they can't expect you to pay for the things which they need as part of their diligence, and you've got your own agenda as well. So there's a little bit of additional monies which they're going to have to either quantify or let the market understand. But when will that be? Do we know how much money they're going to allocate to that? And if there is a 12-month extension, does that suggest more money will be spent as part of that diligence process, or is it's just they need more time?
Yeah, I don't know what money they will be spending internally assessing the project, but nor should I. The amount of money that we have, the amount of work that we've agreed to do with them runs around $10 million. So the equity raise that we did with them was 25.6. I think that if it ends up taking that year extra, we've got certainly sufficient funds to do additional work together.
Right. Okay. So that was conditional. That's the new equity money which came in. Some of that's conditional spend for their benefit.
Yeah, it's sort of that money goes to the project. It is overseen by the technical committee, and the technical committee has a 1/3 representation from Rio over the period. So let's say over 18 months we spend 10 million, and then it's all done. Then the rest of the money is ours. Or let's say we spend 25.6. After that, then we're all done.
Okay, understood. Okay, so potentially in 18 months they'll make a decision, and then what?
Hopefully we have something very interesting to bring to our shareholders.
But is it one of the two scenarios you laid out, or was there it will be one of those two solutions?
Well, it's either that they're buying the company, or that there's another business transaction where they end up with majority shareholding of the project, or they walk. And why did we? They've done a lot of diligence to get to this point. Why would we be messing around for 18 months if they weren't 90% sure that we were going to end up with a positive outcome?
Okay, it's fairly binary.
Yeah.
Okay. Will you miss it when it's gone? Having been there for 13 years.
After 12 months, or after 12 years, actually 14 years that I've been with the company. I'll miss it a little bit, presuming that it's gone. I'm sure I'll have a little bit of involvement, at least for a little while moving forward. But we'll see. Anyhow, let's not count our chickens before they've hatched on this yet. But I feel really positive about where things are going, and as I said, Rio has been a really good group to work with so far, and the guys that we're dealing with are very, very good. We'll see. I mean, we've got 18 months here now, and I'm sure there's going to be a few bumps along the road, but I'm pretty positive about how things are going so far.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, that's why we wanted to speak to you. So I appreciate you taking the time to take our call. PEA next, end of June.
End of June.
Okay, we should talk then. See what that looks like.
We definitely should. It should be pretty exciting.
Great. Okay, well, Paul, appreciate your time today. I know it's early in the morning there. I'll let you go and we'll speak soon.
All right. Thank you.